I'm sitting here with Neely, a friend of mine, and she made Aliyah. She immigrated to Israel from Canada, and she's a little nervous because it's her first time doing a stream on YouTube or anywhere else. So I'm going to ask her a few questions. The question is, what does Joe Biden, or what does the newly elected President of the United States, Joe Biden, means for Israel? So maybe, Neely, you can, I don't know, say hello or something. And what does it mean? What is your opinion? What does Biden, if he's really going to become president, because Trump is going to court apparently, what do you think Biden means for Israel?
In the long term, I don't see any great changes. Maybe some individual people will find some things they don't like and some things they like, but the presidency as a whole, they're actually have to answer to other people, the Congress and the other people that are around him have much to say about what's happening. People always worry, like when Trump was elected, they've been protesting for 4 years. Why? If they would have just let him get on with the job, the 4 years would have passed, they would have elected Biden, and it would have been finished. It's going to be the same with Biden. He has 4 years. What can he do? He's not going to set off nuclear bombs. He can't sell the entire country out in 4 years. So you just have to wait and see. As far as Israel, it's always been tentative between Israel and the United States, Israel and the European Union. That's how it's been ever since Israel declared as a state. And I don't see myself tearing out my hair or beating my chest. I just think of when years and years ago, when Richard Nixon was elected, people were running around saying it's the end of the world, it's the end of the world. Well, nothing happened. So that's what I think.
I don't know, but Trump and his vice president is
Pence. Pence.
No, I mean Biden and his vice president
Kamala Harris.
Kamala Harris announced already that they're gonna open the United States again to migrants, to Muslim migrants. And Kamala Harris announced, and there was an interview with her, or there was a report not too long ago in the Jerusalem Post, that various Arab, I don't know if it's jihad money or terrorist money or whatever money, Trump froze. So Biden is going to release the money. So what Biden means for Israel, according to certain statements from Biden and made by Biden himself and Kamala Harris, is that, first of all, the two are very pro-Palestinian. Kamala Harris is very anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian. She doesn't hide it. She says it out loud. So the agenda of the two is probably, or apparently even, that negotiations will go on with the Palestinians, and they do want a Palestinian state with Jerusalem as its capital.
It's possible, but they're not the first
to try
government to try it.
Everybody else
Obama hated Israel, and he had Hillary Clinton as Secretary of State who also hated Israel, and really not that much happened. The fact of the matter is Israel is in a position in the Middle East that we're limited on what we can and cannot do. We basically are defending our borders. We cannot afford to give up any land because we're so small to start with. When a country is only 10 miles wide from your enemy to the sea, it doesn't give you much choice. As for giving up Jerusalem, it's not going to happen.
I don't know. With our prime minister, I don't know. He's very opportunistic.
I don't think that the rest of the government and the population, for that matter, would stand for it.
No, but
People will stick with the status quo. Right now, nobody is interested in getting into a fight with the Muslim population for who's going to control the Temple Mount. But there is a law in effect that there is access for everybody, for Muslims, for Jews, for Christians. Anybody can go up there. They make it more difficult at times for some people, but it's still the fact that Israel wants to see the Temple Mount open. And will we ever give it up? No, I don't think so. There's too many people. If our prime minister said, I'm going to sign over this land, I think there would be a real civil uprising. Already people are demonstrating every night against him, and they're not going to take anything radical. If he keeps on a level keel and just carries on, people will settle down. But if he tries to do anything drastic, Israelis are quite hot-headed sometimes, and they won't put up with it.
What worries me is that Joe Biden got a $50 million donation from George Soros.
Yeah, this is always a problem.
So Biden is apparently on Soros' payroll, or whatever you call it. Biden apparently has enough money. I think he's a millionaire or something.
He's a very rich man.
So he doesn't really need the money, but still Soros supports him, also the agenda.
Anybody who gets caught up in the Soros net, there's a problem. Okay, Soros theoretically calls himself a Jew, but he's a self-hating Jew.
He hates Israel.
He hates Israel. He hates Jews. During the war, he turned Jews in his own village.
Unfortunately, there is no proof.
They
say he turned Jews to the Nazis.
There are interviews of him admitting it, and he said it was the best time of his life. I can do some searching and try and find the links for you, but I have seen this, and it's no secret, and he doesn't make any secret of it. He stated that the war years was a good time for him. He did very well.
He tries to interfere in Israel all the time. He has like an organization here located in Tel Aviv, funded by him, by George Soros. It's called the New Israel Fund.
Yeah.
There's also something, a branch of the New Israel Fund is called Shalit. Is it called Shalit? Something like this. And this New Israel Fund actually funds or gives money, finances all the demonstrations against Netanyahu. Any demonstration in Israel against the government, also when the Ethiopians demonstrated, all this against the government is funded by George Soros through his organization here, the New Israel Fund. Everybody knows it.
Yeah.
You hear New Israel Fund in Israel, you know George Soros is behind it.
Well, he's a part of a group of primarily rich people who they say one world order. I don't like to use that term because I think it's just not a correct term. But they really see themselves as a group of elite who think that they know better than the rest of the world, and they just want to have their ideals and controls put in place. Democracy doesn't allow that. They're allowed to try, but if people are vigilant, they won't let it happen. And the thing with people now, with media and TV and everything available at the snap of a finger, people tend to get lazy. They forget what research is. And some years ago, before social media got so prevalent, when something like George Soros would come up with something, people would do research. You'd search back, you'd follow the money trail, which is a big thing nowadays.
But it's also very hard. I Googled this morning, and it's very hard to find a connection between, for instance, George Soros and the Antifa.
Yeah, that's true.
It's not easy to find links or proof that George Soros actually supports the Antifa.
There are sites and reporters who are very good and have good connections that filter out this stuff, and you have to look for it. Like I still read, it used to be called Sultan Knish, Daniel Greenberg.
Yeah. Greenfield.
Greenfield, sorry. He's an excellent journalist. He researches all his facts. He gives all his links and his connections. And even just going to his site now and reading the information that he has laid down there over the years is an eye-opener for anybody. I still read him. There's many people out there. If you're going to use social media, don't just read the people that you like. Start reading, somebody else, some of the other blogs and some of the other researchers. People hate Rebel News. A lot of people in Canada hate Rebel News, especially the government. But if you listen to some of the stuff that they bring up, it's stuff that is not being told by the mainstream media. And they're trying to shut them down. Why? Why shut down any reporter, any news item? If they're not trying to kill people or encourage you to kill people, but pointing out this person may be using your tax money for bad uses, you don't shut people down like that. You listen to what they're saying, you look into where their sources are, you find out what they're talking about, then you decide if you want to pay attention or not. But nowadays, people are not taught to do research. They're not taught to think. There's no back and forth. There's no debate. Unless, if you're left, you don't want anybody to think any different than you. If you're right, it's the same thing. People have to learn a middle ground. They all live together. They think in the Middle East, the Israelis and the Arabs are constantly fighting. To a degree, this is true. But look what's happening in other countries in the world. People are also constantly fighting about different things. Do Israelis hate Arabs? Some do. Some don't. Do Arabs hate Israelis? It's the same thing. I have Arab friends. I have Israeli friends. I have Christian friends. It doesn't make any difference. How people behave to me is how I behave to them. And we've lost that. We've lost the idea of debate. We've lost the idea of mutual respect. And somehow we have to get that back. Otherwise, things are just going to continue being a mess like they are now.
But after the last election, when Trump became president of America, like people, leftists, Antifa, whoever, different movements, they went berserk. I mean, now Biden is probably the newly elected president of the United States. So I'm not going to Walmart. We don't have a Walmart in Israel, unfortunately. But I'm not going to a store, to the nearest supermarket and starting to loot and freaking out. I don't do this.
I don't believe that these protests, maybe at the beginning, they were upset. But in my opinion, when you're going down into a center of town, busting in the windows, stealing all the merchandise, beating up people, shooting people, this is not a protest anymore. This is breaking the law, and these people should have been put in jail. That's the big mistake. They've been allowed to run loose. When you lose the rule of law, you have nothing to fall back on. And they say, well, it doesn't affect me. Maybe not today. But when they finish with one area and they come into your area, there's going to be nobody to defend you.
I heard that various Biden followers or Biden people or whatever you call them, they want to go after Trump voters or people supporting Trump.
Well,
and I'm a little afraid of this, that everything is getting out of control.
I think it already is partially out of control. And if Joe Biden really wants to do anything in his presidency, I would hope that he would tell these people, go home, look after your families, go back to your jobs, and stop destroying the country. When you're destroying your own country from within, you're opening yourself out to foreigners that you may not want to taking over.
But the problem is that Biden announced or that he agrees. Trump, for instance, he blocked all these Muslim migrants coming in, or various Muslims. I don't know exactly the law, but he blocked Muslims from moving to the United States, from flooding the United States, just like Europe, Germany, France, England, who are being overrun by Muslims. And so Trump doesn't want this happening in the United States. Trudeau in Canada,
Oh, please.
he lets everybody in. I probably couldn't immigrate to Canada, but if I were from Afghanistan, I think I would have a chance.
As a Canadian citizen, born and raised, they want to block me when I'm going back to visit my kids. Why? Because I'm coming from Israel. Doesn't make any difference.
But you have a Canadian passport.
I was still stopped and detained, and I wanted all the reasons why I was coming in. And I said, it's my country, but it doesn't mean anything anymore.
Maybe you should scream Allah Akbar, and this would help.
I'll put on a burqa if I could breathe under it. But the problem is, at one point in time, countries had rules, they had laws. You wanted to immigrate to any country in the world, you made an application, they reviewed your application, you gave your reasons, they accepted you or not. I know many people who tried to immigrate to Canada, they were refused, no particular reason. And now they're taking all of these, I call them economical migrants, because anybody who's walking across a border with designer suitcases, 3 or 4 cell phones, Wi-Fi hotspot,
It's the same in Germany.
things. These people, and they have shoes and clothes and phones. I work full-time, can't afford this. So there's something wrong, and they shouldn't even be allowed across the border. And then when they get across the border, they should be turned around and sent back. The same as I watch all the people crossing the channel to go to England. Well, they're in France. France is a safe, neutral country, a member of the EU. Why don't they stay there? Why are they illegally trying to get into Britain? Britain has good health care.
There's more welfare.
And this is the problem. Until the people in the government put down their foot and say, enough, it's not happening, you're going back. I don't care if you don't want to go back or not, you're going back. It's gotta change, because what's going to happen if you just say no borders, no laws, no nothing, it'll end up people will be just fighting and destroying themselves, because you need law. You need a certain, not too much law, but you need a certain amount of rules. Defunding the police is just asinine. Look at how many children and people have been shot in the cities that have defunded the police.
Who actually defunded the police after this?
This was
this
when
black
the
guy
Black
was
Lives Matter
shot.
started. You know, okay, if somebody is killed when they, by what I would call a murder, by police, I don't know what the correct phrase is, when they shoot somebody and they shouldn't have shot
But he
him.
was on drugs.
Well, this
I
never
forgot his
came
name.
out.
This
Floyd, I think.
Floyd, yeah, who was shot by
The problem is, with social media, people start posting and everybody gets worked up and gets all up in arms before the facts come out. Then when the facts come out, nobody's interested anymore, because they're so excited and they're so worked up. They're not interested in hearing the facts, because it means that they were not correct in their judgments. Yes, this man, they did. I saw the film where the cop was kneeling on his neck. He shouldn't have done that. And he's being charged. They're all being charged. But people have to realize that's what you have laws for. The police that did this should be arrested, they should be tried, and they should be charged. And if they're not charged properly, then people have to put in complaints until they are. That's what the rule of law is all about. You have certain steps that you have to take. Just because it doesn't come out your way, you can't turn around and say, I don't want to do this anymore. It's got to be my way or the highway. That's not how it works in life.
But the problem is that various, I don't know, the cities who there's certain areas, certain neighborhoods where there's no police anymore. I think it's is it in Chicago or?
I think Philadelphia is one. I have to tell you the truth. I just stopped paying attention to it, because these people, in my mind, are gone off the deep end. Life is stressful enough. I'm not going to sit and watch these people robbing stores and beating each other up and screaming this and screaming that. It's just, I have better things to live for in my life than this type of foolishness. And now that they're tearing down statues and saying this is racist and this was built by racism, wake up. Racism existed from the beginning of time. It has always been there. Your own family line, if you trace it back far enough, you'll find racism there. It's there. All you can do is try to make it better. Erasing history does not make it better. Look at what's happening now. I've never seen anything in years and years and years as disgusting as the last, say, 5 years. All the damage, all the hatred, all the non-production. Meanwhile, countries like China are building their strength and building their country, and they're laughing.
The Chinese are laughing. They're laughing about the United States.
They're laughing at all the countries because they're saying, look at you. You're tearing yourself apart from the inside. If somebody would attack, God forbid, I wouldn't be surprised because you're opening yourself up. When you're weak and divided from within, you're open for somebody from outside to take you over. And I promise you, if China or some country such as that were to take over, you would not be happy.
This is also what it says. It says that Joe Biden has business connections with China, private business connections. He invested a lot in China, and Trump always warned that in case Biden wins, so China will take over the United States. The United States is selling out to China.
The thing is, they've been selling out for years.
So is Israel, by the way. There are certain companies
Canada,
that went to China.
You just look at these countries that are being bought up, these companies in all countries all over the world. Who's buying them up? The Chinese, the Saudis, the people with the money. And once they buy in, you have a hard time getting them out. The Chinese, when they buy in, they bring in their own workers, they bring in their own rules. It never works out favorably. And there's many, many examples of that. But again, people don't want to listen. People, they only see what's in front of them. And somebody tells them, oh, I'm going to give you an extra $100 a week. And they say, this is the one for me. They don't know what that $100 is going to cost them.
Yeah.
And maybe you didn't like Trump. That's fine. Maybe you don't like Biden. That's fine. But the rule of law is they were elected. They have 4 years to prove themselves. Then there's another election, and they can either be reelected or not. That's how democracy works. If you don't like it, go to Russia, go to China, go to North Korea, someplace where they don't work on the rule of law, and see how you like it. It might be better for you.
I'm just worried for the United States that because I read this morning on a blog, on an American blog, that after Biden's inauguration, 27,000 Somali Muslims and someone else, not only from Somalia, but also from a different country, also Muslims, are waiting to move to the United States. So it looks to me with Biden, it's going to become like Germany, France, or England, where all these Muslims from all over the world are streaming in. Trump was a blockage. He blocked everybody. He said America first. But now with Biden, and Biden also announced it, that he would let in whoever. So it looks like, or there is a danger that the United States may be flooded with, all kinds of Muslims who don't like
America.
Who don't like America, who are not going according to the law, and who want to change the United States.
Well, changing happens. You can't live without change. But I grew up, because Canada and the US share the longest border in the world. At times we almost felt like we were American because it was so close. And the one thing that I've always, from as long back as I can remember, Americans have always been very patriotic.
Yeah.
They have their ideals. When they fight, They fight for everything they're worth, and they fight for what they believe in. They don't fight because somebody says, oh, go and kill them. They fight because they have their American dream, the American way, what they feel is right. And in my heart, I don't think that the majority of American citizens will allow that to happen. Things may get bad, they may get ugly, but I think in the long run, American patriotism will rise to the top and things will get back.
I don't know. Sometimes I think maybe I'm just imagining that the new US government may go after opponents.
It's possible. This is possible in every government. I don't see how they can get away with it, or if they get away with it, how if they can get away with it for long.
Because the media is on their side.
That's
The
true.
media may not
But
even
there are
report.
still, even in a country like China, where people try to keep everything closed, people still get news out. And America is far from being as closed off as China. I have to keep my faith in the people who believe in right from wrong and who are patriotic and the ideals that built the country. When you see what was made from nothing from when people first immigrated to America, Australia is another, all these countries were nothing and the immigrants built it. If the immigrants start tearing it down, there's going to be enough people that are going to say, wait a minute, we don't want this. At least this is what I'm hoping will happen.
This is, what Israel is hoping, that the influence will not be too bad. Like with Obama, we had bad experience with Obama.
And we'll have more with Biden and Harris.
Some say Biden and Harris are going to be worse than Obama.
It's quite possible because there's a lot of hatred there. But the one thing that they can't get away with is from the beginning of time, Israelis have always been oppressed.
Oh, yeah.
And we fight a lot amongst each other. But as soon as somebody comes against us, that's when we join forces. And we may end up just stuck in our little enclave like we are for a while. But I think that's okay. We can survive it. We have enough ingenuity. We have enough brains.
Well, we have
enough resources. We always have God on our side. I think that we can make it. But again, it's the whole world. Look around. I don't even like to turn on the news because you don't see anything positive. And now I understand why some people go to the YouTube and watch cat videos. Because it's the only thing.
I do that sometimes. I don't watch.
I watch dog videos.
I've been watching a lot of videos about Afghanistan lately.
Yeah, this is not my favorite place.
I learned a lot. And those people coming to the United States, maybe also from Afghanistan, oh my God. This is not the kind of people you want.
It's not that you don't want immigrants, because North America is made up of immigrants. But when immigrants years ago were coming to North America, they wanted to leave behind the bad things that they had been living under, and they were looking to build a country and have a brighter future. What you're seeing now is people who are they're coming from countries that are total garbage. Shitholes is a word that people use. And they don't want to leave that behind. They want to bring that with them and impose it on North American and Western countries. That doesn't work. I can't imagine that the population of North America and Europe is going to willingly go to living like they're in the 7th century. I just can't believe that they will let that happen.
But don't people see the danger with Biden, that he's opening up the country again to anybody?
I don't think right now
Suspicious?
people are thinking about anything. I think people aren't thinking. They're reacting by emotions. Sooner or later, the emotions will settle down and people will have to say, okay, what's really happening in my life? You can only have so many people on welfare, because who's going to pay the welfare? Where's the welfare money coming from? When the governments go broke, when the hospitals go broke, when there's no money for anything, people are going to say, whoa, wait a minute, what's happening in our life?
Yeah.
I mean, it may be some hard times before people wake up, but I truly, truly believe people will wake up. And I truly believe that things can start to get back on a normal level if people just stop acting on emotions and start thinking and debating, talk to people. You don't-
Debating, I don't know, as you
Not
said before.
Everybody
debating
has
is-
to think the same way that you do. Everybody's entitled to an
Today,
opinion.
everything is racism. You have to be politically correct. If you say anything, so you are racist, you are Nazi, you are I don't know what.
I know.
You have conspiracy theories and all this. So I don't know.
I am not politically correct, and I will.
Neither am
I
I.
can't be. And if somebody is going to arrest me and throw me in jail, I'll deal with it at the time. But I am not going to pretend to be something that I'm not. And I'm not going to turn around and say, oh, yes, tear down the statues, because I think it's wrong. The statues were put up there for a reason. It's history. You have to remember history. And these people with Black Lives Matter, excuse me, look at all the very, very rich Black people. Are they doing anything to fix the poor cities in their countries? Are they giving money? No, they're flying off to places that you or I or a normal person could never even get to. And they're living, throwing money around like it was rice. So why don't they do something? They're saying, oh, Black Lives Matter, but what are they doing? And yes, they do matter. But you know what? People who want to get better themselves, you have to work hard. It's not easy. I always listen. My favorite person for these types of discussion is Thomas Sowell. He's in his 80s. He is such an intelligent man, and he knows what he speaks about. He grew up in Harlem in the poorest of times, and he went right through everything to get his doctorates and become a well-respected person. Look him up and listen to what
What's
he
his
has
name?
Thomas Sowell, Sowell. He is an amazing person. And if you listen to the things he has over the years spoken about this equality, and he thinks that this idea, this equal opportunity, did more to damage Black people than to help them. Listen to some other opinions. Listen to people
There are many
who grew
Black
up in
people.
this.
I read many Black people on JP Media or something, and they are Blacks who totally speak against this Black Lives Matters.
They do. Because right now, what is Black Lives Matter doing? Destruction and hatred.
Smashing shop windows.
I have not seen one positive thing that they've done. You could show me where they bettered a city, where they bettered a life.
Maybe it's
not
going to
happened.
vanish now with Biden, because Biden is on their side. They don't have an enemy anymore. They had Trump as their enemy. Now Trump is gone, apparently. And so they have Biden. So they've lost their enemy. Well, the enemy are the white people.
Time will tell, but you're always going to have people like that. And remember, how can these people be out every day, every night for all these months and months and months? Somebody's paying them.
It's the same here with the demonstrations against Netanyahu.
Yep.
New Israel Fund, George Soros is paying for the buses to come to Jerusalem, and he pays off people to come.
Yeah, it's a sad situation, but I think, it's what happens in the world. If you go all the way back through history, societies built themselves up. They became very wealthy. They became very advanced. They became then they started getting depraved because all of a sudden nothing was enough for them, and their societies collapsed. This has happened all through history. And so what are we doing now? We had such a great world society where we were making advances, we're flying to the moon. And now what are people doing? Instead of trying to cure an illness or build up a city or help poor people, they're destroying shops and stealing because everybody is only interested in themselves. Are we facing collapse of society? Maybe we are, who knows? But unless people think about it and start changing their opinions, we're not headed for good things.
Well, we will see how everything goes with Israel and Biden. Do
I'm praying.
you have anything more to say?
No, I'm talked out.
Okay, so thank you very much for listening. And well, I'm going to do some more podcasts with Neely on various other subjects, not only on Joe Biden. But because of the elections and everything, so we decided on this topic. So thank you very much for listening, and
Have a good day.
have a good day.